Okay, I'm back. Yo, Foxman, you're here already. So this is just my channel. I need to message Nate right away to say delete the other one. So just a second. I'll get back to everybody. Nate, I'm sorry for trying to ruin your channel. Delete the fuck you video on Grail Country. Okay, I'm back. So yeah, they sent me this message that at an hour and 5 minutes and 35 seconds, which you can't look up and discern for yourself because YouTube doesn't want peer-to-peer public, because we're not really democratic, are we? We're an oligarchy. We're a tech oligarchy. We don't really want the people to be able to look and discern for themselves and maybe vote if you believe in democracy, of what is misinformation and what is disinformation and what is, you know, groupthink and what's going on. So side lit, backlit. No, that's just the sun coming from this side. This is my big front window. To the east, the sun from the east. So you know, I'm sure it was an AI thing, because there's no way they can actually have human beings reviewing all this content. So it's AI looking through a transcript, they're reviewing it, and then you can appeal it. So I appealed it. It says this is just a warning and your channel isn't affected. However, we remove the content from YouTube. What to do next? Review your content in the policy. After your review, you can take our training to remove the warning or appeal if you think we got it wrong. So I appealed. Because, I mean, that's just right. And David, you just subscribed to my channel, David Busatil? Oh, you maybe only knew that it was you maybe thought it was only Grail Country. So I, right away this morning when I woke up, I appealed it, and they replied again at 6:32 this morning, Central Time. We've reviewed Sam and Luke talk about communication and telepathy tapes again and confirmed it's not allowed under our medical misinformation policy. Now, I'm almost sure, and now the only option I have now is to take their training, which makes me think of Jordan Peterson, like Canada's re-education training, which is like the most Orwellian shit ever. I can't post it to X Foxman because I don't have an X premium account, which I don't know if the stream is too hot, Chris. They're trying to crush your momentum. The stream has been too hot. Whatever. They can, I don't care. I am motivated by I have an internal compass. I call it the implanted word, and a conscience. And Cormac McCarthy said, the coward betrays himself first. After that, all other betrayals come easily. So so they reviewed it, apparently they took it down. And now I'm almost certain I wasn't even in the video when this happened. The content warning I'm sure they're talking about. So I've been texting friends this morning, and I'm sure that, so McMo and Sam and Jess, I think, were talking at that point. And I think what happened was Sam made the joke, and all jokes have a bit of truth or else they're not funny. If jokes don't have a seed of truth in them, they aren't funny, YouTube. So Sam made the joke. There were two jokes that were made, okay? And I'm going to repeat them again because, again, fuck you. If you think you can, like, strong arm me for not saying what I think, fuck yourself. I'm an American. Like, I'm going to say what I think. That does, especially in a space like this where it's a medium of talking about ideas and public engagement. If I have personal relationships with someone and my speech is hurting their feelings, I might curb my speech because I have a personal relationship with them and I'm not an asshole. But in regard to this, screw yourself. So, yeah, it's a minor inconvenience, but I'm just going to vent on here because that's also what I do. And it maybe isn't a minor inconvenience when I say fuck you. Chris, I love you. I'm a doctor, and the prescription is the implanted word. It's the only prescription that's able to save your souls. And so this is my son is also texting me at the same time because he's awake and not to school yet. He says, by the way, they are allowed to control their own site, and it's in the terms and services. They are totally divorced from America and American laws. They're an American company, though. YouTube, isn't it? So I don't think so. They're owned by Google, yeah, but isn't that an American company? They're not above the law. It's just like, again, tech oligarchy. This is America. Well, yes. Am I sure I don't care about money? There's a family depending on you carrying at least some. I mean, yeah, I want to feed my family, but I think about I think about the movie The Hidden Life, and I am not going to do violence to my own conscience to participate in a machine or an evil principalities as a transaction for money. No, I wouldn't do that. And so America's an oligarchy. Google is CIA. This is gonna be T. Grogan's just coming in to debate whatever God. My son is a very he's a self-thinking person, because as for me and my house, we will be free thinkers. And so he can disagree with me about things. I like that he has his own opinions. I'm not YouTube. I like it when people have their own opinions. I think it's a good thing, and I think it helps us all. So the jokes, what were the jokes? Also, Sam, get in here. Actually, Sam maybe will want to get in here now for reasons that those who know can know. Okay, I don't know how to copy it. Here, I'm going to message Sam. Okay, I'm sending Sam a voice memo. Also, McMo, get in here. Sam, I'm doing a live stream called Fuck You YouTube. You can come on if you want. So the jokes were, let's go read them. So someone made a joke. The U.S. government obviously developed vaccines so that the U.S. population would have a higher rate of telepaths so that we could outcompete the Soviets in telepathic powers. Like, for whoever reviewed the video at YouTube, you think he was being serious? I mean, the joke is that could be serious, but that it's conspiracy theory stuff. How could you ever know? Maybe, maybe not. He also joked that the Jews have been telepathic the whole time, which is how they run their global cabal, and they're scared on losing their monopoly on telepathy. I mean, if you don't believe in telepathy, who cares? It's a joke. If you're a bunch of physicalist materialists, who cares? We're talking about telepathy. Ignore it. We're a bunch of flat earth cougars. You know, like it's maddening. It's absolutely maddening. And YouTube, listen, I forgive you. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. I do forgive them. And also I will simultaneously validate you that you feel triggered that I said things that you don't like, and that's, I don't know, that scares you. But also your behavior of strong arming and pulpiteering language that you don't like because of your confessional, closed-minded, dogmatic, doctrinaire attitude that you want to control what people can say is a bad idea. And to that idea and to that spirit, I continue to say fucking you. Fucking you. My family's laughing at me. I say fucking you. YouTube has a fragile orthodoxy. Listen, someone come in here and be upset with me. This is a rage stream. This ought to be clickbait for YouTube, you know? Son, what does this mean? So this, my Zoomer friend on here said, put the controller in player 2 slot. They can't read your mind from there. So if you're like an NPC, no. What would that mean? Player 2 slot? Listen, what was that YouTube video I showed you where where it was that dude, like that tall buff dude walking through the crowd, and they were like bros in first player mode or something?
Bros
main character mode.
Main character syndrome, yeah.
Play Metal Gear. I don't know what that is. British like the F word, but not the B word. They also like the C word, don't they? Yeah. I just had to switch ports to Fool a Boss. Epic. Hilarious. Listen, I appreciate that all you guys are here. I'm not submitting to the higher powers. Are you talking about YouTube? Are you actually playing with us now, Grog? Magog and Magog? Or are you playing? Or are you talking about God and theology still? I guess if they control language, we can just communicate telepathically, says Almond Tree. The implanted, yeah. Well, this is our whole thing, Grogan. You want to listen to the question and not the questioner. You still have the hard problem of all perception, and you don't realize that persons are more fundamental than the words that they speak. Because persons are the words of God.
Feels like -3.
I don't know what this means, Grizz. This video is getting flagged for that flat comment. Maybe YouTube should just... anyone in the comments, YouTube, ban them all. I mean, you can't be too cautious, right? Because what did you say? What did you say in my email? This email. We've reviewed the Sam and Luke talk about communication and telepathy tapes again, and it's confirmed it's not allowed under our medical misinformation policy because we've medicalized everything, right? We understand this may be frustrating, but we're committed to keeping YouTube a safe place for everyone. For me, I don't feel like this is a safe place for me, YouTube. I don't feel like you want me to be safe. So I think, here's the thing. When it's safe for everyone, it's safe for no one. This is like the woke genes on SNL. Should we watch that on SNL? We'll probably get content flagged for that. Woke genes. They fit everybody because they fit nobody. They have a uni zipper from the front to the back. It's Ryan Gosling. You love it.
Tell Theo's girlfriend.
What is okay? What is obvious clickbait? Me? I am clickbait. I am clickbait. This is like I am Batman. This is like Grog and T-Grog. Okay. I might have to start talking about theology because I don't know. Hey. Hey. Okay. We're not loudly using names. Okay? My whole family is still here and their boy energy is good. I am not. Ryan Gosling. Boy energy? What is boy energy? Boy psychology? Is that what you're talking about, Rod? Stop putting me on blast. A home phone? Who are you? I am someone who has children who do not all have smartphones and do not have unlimited access to the internet and their smartphones all the time because I believe science and I'm aware of the research and I know what smartphones and social media do to the adolescent mind. And I believe me and my household believe the science, and we are defenders of science. And I don't want them to have access to unlimited access to phones and cell phones and smartphones and the internet. And so I limit it because I believe in safety and I want my kids to be safe because I do not overprotect in the physical world and underprotect in the digital world, which is something Jonathan Haidt talks about, which is not wise, which is what a lot of modern parents do. I protect what I think is an adequate, wise level, because absolute safetyism is death, the Tao. Like to go full on this way in like an authoritarian, totalitarian safetyism is to kill everyone. And so I have a home phone so that my kids can use the home phone to call me and I can call my home. You are winning me over. I believe in science. Believe all science, all of it. Steven's here. Okay, listen, people, I put out the thing a long time ago. Nobody wants to listen to me rant for a long time. PVK will never clip this. Boostatil, get in here so PVK will clip it. And we have to clip it because YouTube's going to take it down. I am science. I'm reading a comment. Huh? My wife just said I'm schizophrenic. So listen, all you people who criticize me on YouTube, the words that hurt the most come from my own family. You can't hurt me.
You know, it'd be really funny if it would be on the live stream. I can do stuff.
They're all laughing at me. Listen, right now, currently it says I have 34 active watchers on my own channel.
What I meant is
So-
you sound schizophrenic to people.
Papa, that's like every single one of your subscribers. Hey, you said you don't care about it.
They're believe all wives. Yes, Chris. Believe all wives. Believe all women. Believe all women. Believe all science.
Papa,
Believe all wives.
Because they're watching.
Papa,
Because they are watching.
have you learned women are science?
Women are science. These are, I'm highlighting comments. I'm highlighting comments on YouTube, and I'm speaking comments from my family. Wives and science. T. Grogan says schizophrenia is a serious illness. Get help. Is that the Michael Jordan meme? Get help. No, Chris, you do not ask what is a woman. A woman is one who identifies as a woman. YouTube, I'm a woman. I am every victimized category.
Hey, you can't say that.
I can't say that I'm every victimized category.
You can't change your race, but you can change your gender.
Yeah,
That's
whatever
what
the
I'm
things in me that are pan and fluid, those are all changing to the victim status right now. So you can't take this down, or else you are the patriarchy, YouTube. So there are dozens of us. Dozens. Jason says he wants to hear more family comments. T. Grogan is enjoying this. He says it's so much better than talking about theology. Charlie's Little Corner says, get help if you have an internal dialogue at all. I feel like
I don't think that's true at all.
I feel like I have an internal dialogue.
Everyone has an internal dialogue.
My son says
you're the
everybody.
minority if you don't.
No, isn't that a question that they ask people? There's statistical studies done on this. Like I think what percentage of it, like there's some percentage of people that would say they have an internal voice that they can hear, and some people are like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't know.
But here's the problem. All that's subjective. All that is subjective. So Chris Young, you're really trying to get me put on blast. This is Chris Young. This isn't me. Okay? I'm not saying that. Nobody wants to play. Boostatil, get in here. Don't just highlight things I've said before, okay? PVK is not here. Jason, get in here. None of you have jobs. This is fine. Who sings that song, wife? I'm every woman. Yeah.
I don't know, probably like Tina Turner or probably Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston or Tina Turner. Listen, I'll start singing. I'm a little scared about this. I have a local friend who, for their birthday, is doing karaoke, of which my wife is very excited about, and I'm nervous about it. Cassidy, yes. Fishing.
Hi.
Hi, are you guys here for my content? Listen, if
I
you're
just
not here
wanted to
watching
do a
this,
thank
you
you.
won't be able to watch it later because it's getting taken down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a little confused, I think.
No, that'll get flagged. Don't play music on here. We'll get flagged. What are you confused about? Cassidy?
Well, I'm confused about a lot of things. I'm
Let's
confused.
start somewhere.
I'm confused a little bit exactly what it is that got flagged and why you got flagged.
Okay.
And then I don't quite know why you're so fiery about it.
Perfect. Those are two great questions to start with.
Because it's like, I don't know. I've thought about this question a lot because I kind of get irritated with some of the censorship that comes with some of these big platforms, but I recognize that there's a whole lot of factors going into that are so much more than just strictly ideology. There's probably also like legal things and whatever. They're big machines, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what Rod said. Like YouTube is an ad thing. It's they
And so-
want their money.
And yeah, someone in the comments said something about that. Like, I see YouTube as a host. If they don't want to host what I have to say, they don't necessarily have to. I can
For
think
sure.
they're stupid. We can have a conversation about that. But
Yeah.
I wonder sometimes if like the personalizing of it makes it a bigger issue than it is, and then feeds into YouTube doubling down, trying to like, I don't know, fight back, and then it's this feedback loop that's on each other. I don't know, but you seem like you wanted a friend to talk to, so I'm here.
I did, and thank you for coming. Yeah, this is Mandy's reiterating the joke that I think either one of my friends who shall not be named made, or maybe McMo made. I'll say that McMo made it, or the Kierkegaardian, or however he wants to be called. But then there was also the flag about the Jewish cabal, which Hezi thought was funny. I have a Jew friend that thought it was funny. So there we go.
That was a
I
good
guess,
joke.
huh?
That's probably my favorite. I said that was a good joke. That was probably my favorite part of that whole stream.
How dare you? So I agree with a lot of what you're saying, Cassidy. I think that's true. I'm not, listen, I am passionate and I'm energetic.
Sure.
And so I'm going to come on and get excited about it. I don't, like I said, truly, I mean, it is, I agree with you. Ultimately, it's a hospitality thing. If you want to quote my priest who said it once, and I think this is a fantastic quote, and it's one of my favorite quotes of his that I say all the time. He said, you can look at the Orthodox Church from the outside and think it's very formal and it's very ritualistic and it's very conservative, like it's just very structured. And he said, and it is, but then you have to ask, always you have to ask this with conservatism, is what are you conserving? And he said, we're conserving hospitality. And so it is very formal, but they're conserving hospitality. So then if you are hospitable, if your true value is hospitality that you're conserving, then you allow for people to come in and break the form, break the ritual, break the structure to a degree, in so much that it doesn't cave the whole thing into chaos, I suppose. And that's the boundaries conversation that we've had, you know? Oh, hey, Jason, you can leave. Yeah. Thanks for coming, though, to just support me. I appreciate that. YouTube's not going to do it.
Yeah, I was demanding
Now you
to
got some
show
friends
up.
here. Yeah, same here. So that's why I hopped on. But I'm gonna get some work done. You got other friends, so play with at the moment.
Yeah. Also,
Yeah,
YouTube, if you want to do this, if you want to eliminate my channel and do everything, I'm just going to start telepathically streaming to everyone.
Yeah, I'm here for that.
And,
Sure. It's good to see you, David. I'll talk to you guys later.
okay, bye, buddy. Bye, friend.
What's up, Luke?
I'm just
What
being.
do you actually want to talk about? I can only talk for a short amount of time, and I don't know what you're actually getting at.
What?
I know. Well, I know you're upset. I know that they took stuff down because of jokes made.
I'm
But what do you
playfully
want?
upset.
What do you want to actually talk about? What's
So-
going on, buddy?
You need some redirection.
Hey,
I love the
buddy.
peanut gallery of his family too. Just the side comments that can be barely heard.
Oh, man. It's funny. It's funny because all the things that people say on YouTube about me, like my wife was just like, you're sounding schizophrenic. And she's like, thank God that I've known you for whatever, coming up on 25 years. Because she's like, I know you're not schizophrenic, but sometimes you sound a little manicky. Talk about words. So I guess what I would like to talk about a little bit is, because this
Use your
applies,
words.
yeah,
Use your
is
words.
safetyism.
Okay, yeah.
What do you think about safetyism when it comes to free speech and language and word policing? Because this is something I like to talk about all the time. One of my favorite topics is confessionalism. What are the confessional limits that will get somebody excommunicated, YouTube? It's a topic I like because I think religious people do it. I like to talk about it in terms of religious communities, but we can talk about it in terms of YouTube or whatever.
I mean, it's an interesting question. I think it has a lot of a lot of baggage with it, because I think the truth is that some of the things that keep us safe, at least at a certain point of our immaturity, we don't like, and you can look at that in children, and it scales just all the way. Now, I tend to be more libertarian in nature, particularly when it comes to speech. But that said, I don't necessarily act that way in the sense that I'm pretty cautious. Right? I try to be pretty cautious with what I say.
You try to be careful with your words?
Sure. Well, I try. I talk too much, so that's always a problem. But but you know, there's this I don't know, there's this tension where, do I think it's sort of silly to block jokes and be so hyper vigilant on certain topics? Sure. But I also can recognize there's this sense of this big company is they're seeing something that maybe I can't see, and they're trying their best to navigate it. Are they messing up sometimes? Sure.
Don't come in with that humility, Cassidy. Be angry.
You know, I don't have time to be angry. I've got a 1-year-old running around.
Yeah, word.
Likes to climb the stairs. There's no time.
Cassidy, I have a question that maybe you can answer. It just entered my head, and it might be stupid and bad. Which is, it is part of it a public square which never included women before. And so there were certain things that you weren't supposed to say in front of women. And now that the public square is everyone, there's a lot more concern about what is publicly permissible to speak of. Like regarding offense, not the medical stuff. I feel like that's a different thing, but just the concept of offense being important is that weird amounts of chivalry or something.
I think
like
it's like
that?
feminization of the space where there's more females. So there's
right.
more
We have to make sure that there were things that you could get smacked for in the past if you spoke of in front of a woman. Right? Is that kind of what's happening?
I don't know, maybe. I mean, there's certainly trickier dynamics when you have mixed gender company, right? And when it's so casually implemented, because there's so many of these sort of formal traditional structures that are broke down. So there's all of these kind of weird patterns you have to navigate that you don't have good paths to navigate. And then there's all these different cultures where a certain thing is offensive to one culture, but might not necessarily be to this other. But then you have these two cultures mashing, and you have to find a way to like bridge them. And I think that's particularly true in America.
Do you know what the F word is in Quebec, in like French Canadian?
No.
Tabernacle. As in, because you make reference to the tabernacle where the body of Christ is held as a curse.
Do you know what the F word is in Dutch?
What
Cancer.
is it?
Cancer.
Cancer?
Yes.
Like in reference to the disease?
Like get cancer. Like in Dutch, that would be the F word. They have a lot of like cuss words that involve disease. Like they're literal curses.
One of the things that made me a lot freer with swearing was I like worked with the homeless in downtown Toronto, and what their definitions of swearing were completely different than ours. You know, the worst thing to call someone on the street is a goof.
Oh.
Goof.
You goof.
Goof. That was fighting words. You could call someone a motherfucker. Fists weren't going to be thrown. You use the word goof, though, and you're going to get punched.
Okay, I want to share this with you guys, okay? So I was just going to go pin the link to my channel. And on my channel, here's the video with the current title. You cannot click on it. It's not showing that anything is live. It's just, you know, I don't know. I can click on 2 videos ago, but any of the videos that say, fuck you, YouTube, I cannot click on. And people that are in here are probably in here and can watch, but I don't know that it's currently live streaming. I don't know if it's been taken down. I don't know what's going on. It's kind of an interesting, this is an interesting live experiment.
I was able to click it on my YouTube in my browser.
Huh.
So it shows up on my page.
McMo is here to defend. Are you here to defend yourself, McMo?
Hold on, I've been told I need to read something.
Okay.
I deeply regret my thoughtless comments regarding vaccines and the Jewish community. My words were not only careless, but also potentially harmful, and I sincerely apologize for any distress or misunderstanding they caused. I understand now the importance of being more mindful and respectful in my discussions, especially on sensitive topics. I am committed to learning more and ensuring my future conversations are informed, respectful, and considerate. Please accept my heartfelt apologies.
Your handler needs a raise, I think.
I completely agree with McMo. Everything that he said is true, and I love it. I love you, big brother.
I'd like to thank Hezi for writing that for him.
I can't
I
stay
wanted
on
at the end for you to list different conspiracies.
I also avow.
Just about this. My favorite one that I ever came across is really simple. Manatees are people.
Listen,
Is that a real thing?
I mean, I came across it once. I don't know how serious they were being.
Some of them I just wonder, like I think about this all the time. I watch some of these like crazy videos and I go, this is just like a joke, right? Like someone's like really taking the mickey. They're playing it real deadpan, and then people have just picked it up like, oh, they really believe this. This is crazy.
Right.
Some of it's got to be jokes, right? Some of this has got to be just videos to go viral, to like cause chaos. It has to be.
Yeah.
I woke up and chose violence because words. Well, actually, I mean, this isn't. I'm not being silent. Silence is violence. Is this violence? What is violence? I can't keep up with it.
Talking can also be violence.
Talking can be violence, and silence can be violence.
Yeah, it's nuanced.
And punching people can be violence.
Punching people is not violence.
No, not if they're Nazis, right? Punching.
That's right.
Well, it's a justified violence.
That's tolerance.
This is very confusing. This is
well,
humanities. That's funny.
To give you some support in your outrage, I suppose. I do think some of this over-policing of comedy makes it harder for people to make mistakes in comedy and be redeemed, you know? Like,
yeah.
I've worked in comedy for a long time. People make bad jokes. People bomb. People make jokes that are actually good jokes, but taken by the wrong person or not understood by the crowd, and all of a sudden it's they crash and burn. And I think too often, if we, because of how everything is just forever immortalized on the internet by someone's iPhone or a live stream, it does limit the ability to like have redemption, and it opens up the increased possibility that someone's going to take things that you said as a joke out of context and make that everything that you are. It's so easy.
So here's the thing, though. If what I was saying in that thing in my monologue that no one understood was that all meaning is personal, like the person is the nexus and locus of all meaning, you won't get a joke unless you know what it means. If you're trying to just use language as a one-to-one correspondence transaction, you're going to always police language. You will always police language. No matter who you are, that's what you're going to try to do because you don't understand what it is to begin with.
But do you think that's part of, like, the opposite could also be true, where there's a different type of humanizing and person identifying that's happening that is protective of the ones who are finding offense to it? Because sometimes the joke is offensive because you completely understand it. You know what I mean? I think there's two tensions there that are happening, and two ideals that share a similar line, but are operating in different ways to protect that sort of person sense of knowing people.
So what I would say in response to that, thinking of what you were referencing earlier and safetyism and protecting people, is what it makes me think of is Paul in the New Testament and talking about laws and spirits, and in Galatians 3 when he says the law is a pedagogue, which is meant to lead you into adulthood. And when he talks about milk and solid food, you do need laws and rules and structures and boundaries to a higher degree for children because they are not wise enough yet to not hurt themselves in ways that are very detrimental. But then the question for YouTube is like, are you going to regulate legal adults with word policing? I can see doing that for children. I can see protecting children from certain kinds of language and speech, not adults. I don't think that's a good idea. I think that's going to be the consuming mother. In your good intentions, you're going to pave the road to hell. Yeah, even if I assume good intentions.
To play the YouTube side, kids have complete access to everything that you create. It's not like you have an adult filter. And so there's this sense of you don't know who's going to be watching this. Again, I'm not a big, how would you say it, censorship advocate. Mm-hmm. I'm just sort of playing the other side and kind of, I think sometimes kind of the anger and the fury just is this feedback loop that makes it worse instead of just talking about it and being so silly. It was a joke, but you don't want it on there. That's totally fine. We move on. It gives, and not just your situation. There's like other big people who go crazy about like, oh, YouTube's doing this and they're personally targeting this. And then they create all of this like anger and feedback loop. And then it feeds back into YouTube, who is probably not all as sinister as this narrative that's being created by people who feel personally slighted. And then they fight back because, well, these people are lying and whatever. So then it becomes this like feedback loop together where it just makes things more difficult. But where's that line, right? Because sometimes there are places where it's better to kind of push back a little bit. But I do wonder, is the way that the pushback has happened genuinely helping fix the problem?
Yeah, so Cassidy, I want to say something first. Part of it is like I'm passionate and so I'm fired up, but I'm also and you know me. I mean, I love trampling down death by death, trampling down logic by logic, trampling down rage by rage bait click titles. I'm, I think this is all fun and funny at the end of the day. Like I care passionately about, I mean, like one of my moral exemplars is Tom Bombadil. Laugh in the face of the Ring of Power. Like who cares? But yeah, and I would say that probably what's going on here is a lot more like, I'm muting you for a second, Chezi, because I'm getting feedback. But what's going on here is probably more like that hideous strength, NICE, the National Institute for Coordinated Experiments thing, where are there some bad actors in the upper echelons of YouTube and in the deep state cabals of the tech oligarchy, corporate government, nepotistic pipeline? Sure, there probably are. But what do you equate to incompetence? It's that what I feel like that's some principle of like, don't equate to conspiracy theory what could just be incompetence. There's maybe part of that. There's maybe good intentions with all that. But I'm also I'm a believing Christian. I think there are powers and principalities at play within these things that are, dare we say, bad. But agreeing with the Jews, I would also say that God is using ultimately for good. So that's my little rant. I'll unmute Hezi if he has something to say.
First off, I hope you guys are both doing well. It's always fun to see you guys specifically talking together, bringing some of that old school TLC love. And Cassidy, I hope you, your husband, and the baby are doing well. With regards to your last comment, or second last comment, Luke, quoting Paul and Scripture, and you just mentioned that you're a Christian, I would argue that you said that there's things we can't let kids see because they don't have the wisdom yet to discern, right? But even as adults, like, just because I can, is porn good for my soul? Is hearing people use profanity good for my soul? There's no judgment over here, obviously, but like I would even say, even the conversation right now with David going around like saying, you know what the F word is over here or what the F word is over there, one would argue, why even say that word? Why have it come out of your mouth, right? You be using your words and thoughts to be praising the Lord or doing one other million good things. So like we as a society have decided freedom, but that's not, definitely as religious people, we don't offer freedom. That is a Western value. That's not necessarily a Christian or a Jewish value. Freedom for everything, freedom everywhere. Like I understand why that system works, but if I was running YouTube, and I understand the devouring mother and like it's a slippery slope with regards to like censorship. But is YouTube the environment I would want for, let's say, my son as a Jewish boy to be hanging out on? Not necessarily. And I understand as he gets older, I'll trust his discernment. But even then, I would rather him not see some of the content out of there, even if it's just from the corner of his eye, because why expose him to that? And that's not to shield him from reality. But is YouTube reality, or is YouTube reality on steroids? And then you have to ask yourself, like, it's not like going to the park.
Yeah.
That's my rant.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit, well, and this was my son's point. It goes back to that very ancient question of who gets to decide what to safe and who watches the watchers. And I guess in the case of YouTube and content creation, it's the tech oligarchs. It's the people who own these companies, I suppose. But then, like Cassidy said, it comes, and I was saying this to my wife before I started the stream, but then what comes with that is hospitality. Because if YouTube starts banning all the ideas they don't like, and the kinds of true fringe thinker, creative type people who are always going to be on the fringes, they're not going to be in the center, they're always going to be on the peripheries, then those people will go elsewhere and YouTube will become a siloed echo chamber that sucks.
Yeah, but I think YouTube has more to think about just the users that want to create on it. They're also an advertising platform. And so they have to think about the advertisers. And so anytime you put money into it, there's going to be a complicated equation of like trying to protect one value while also protecting another that funds the thing. But I don't know. I think there is something interesting in the sense of like how we understand words, which is why I found the cursing conversation interesting, where it's like not all words mean the same thing to everybody, even if we're speaking the same language. Now, does that mean we should go out of our way and be crass with our language? No, but it kind of opens up this realization that the world is much more complex and larger than we think. There's so much more to know about people than on the surface. And if we can find ways to bridge that, you can find a way to have a better sense of not only the right thing to say in a public format, but how to better, I don't know, manage the things you find offensive. Because, yeah, it's not that I haven't been offended by someone or a joke, but often the more that I know the person, the more that I know the spirit. And even if they're trying to hurt me, the more forgiving I can be, the more that I understand them. But even things that are, you know, meant to be funny that I take offensive, that I know are not meant in mean-spirited, sometimes you can do that calculation in your own head and not let your own personal like shortcomings or whatever stop you from wanting something banned or you know, wanting someone to lose their job for something they said.
Wait, so
Anyway.
should I feel bad for this title?
I'm not your priest. I can't I can't give you spiritual advice on your YouTube titles.
Oh, darn it. Okay. Seabacks, Alan, what up? Christian, Becken, Baxter.
Freaking.
Oh, what's up? What's up? You know, this got me thinking of Randy Marsh from South Park. Do you know that episode where he's like, I'm an American, like this is a free country.
I don't know if I know that episode, but
You
God, I
gotta
love
watch
South
that
Park.
one.
They're
You
so
gotta
good.
watch that one.
Send it
It's
to
good.
me.
Oh, I'm going to right now.
Is this I don't know if this is compatible with yours truly, Christian YouTube.
That's exactly what it is. You're finally being your true self on here, Luke. Free speech, IDW, the whole bit right now. It's in the bones.
I have wondered sometimes of I don't know how much it is compatible because I am very American. So and sometimes I don't know how that is compatible with Christianity. You know, that's a struggle.
That's what Cassidy was basically saying, like,
yeah,
in a certain way.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is remember, embody, we know what's best for you. That's what also was making me think of. You know, we know what's best for the world. YouTube, censorship, nice, whatever, you know, all that stuff.
I think that I mean, I just heard one clip of this conversation, and you know, now I feel like I have a hot take, but you know, when has that ever stopped any of us, you know? But it's like you want to keep, like, I mean, it reminds me of the like, be hot or cold, but you know, if you're lukewarm, I spit you out. It's like, yeah, some places are gonna, like, the idea that it's just you're gonna make the perfect like gelatinous zone of like, it does everything, you know. Your phone is your girlfriend, and also you can call, you know, the same device. There's a comedian who had a joke of like, the same device that I use for my job is where I also look at pornography. And like talking about like, this is the beginning of computers, and like that was always a funny bit of like crossing the stream, like, what is this for? What does this device do? Like, what is it like, the telos? And you know, not, and breaking those things out and not having like, oh well, this is my church group, so it's the only people I can commune with. And like, I think that prevents us from real communion. And like, when we go out, like, an example of this would be the going out to Olympia, Washington. Like, yeah, I may never see some of those people ever again, but that doesn't prevent me from having these great experiences. But I can't formalize the like, every year we're going back to Olympia, Washington at this time of year, and the weather better be the same as it was the first time, and the parking lot better look the same, and the building can't change. It's like, yeah, like maybe for a season, YouTube's the perfect place for us, and then maybe it cracks down and wants to just do, you know, content deals and wants to be more like Hulu, you know, and all that. It's all shows, and you know, you've seen people trying to formalize YouTube content, so. You know, but the idea of like, yeah, we've had this interesting season where YouTube has been sort of a little bit of a Wild West, but like that could continue. It also could end. But
Yeah.
when it ends, just look for the spirit elsewhere, you know, because that spirit isn't gone. You know, it's like the thing is gone, but the spirit isn't gone. And so, you know, yeah. Just
No, that's a good point. That makes me think of like all this stuff is so fresh. Like how long's YouTube been around? But we feel like if YouTube goes, America goes. You know, I think it'll be all right. We'll
I
be
don't
all
think
right.
Elon Musk buy YouTube.
Who could buy YouTube? Ups? Can you buy YouTube? No.
I mean, who knows? Is it less? I hear people say that it's less control-y than it used to be or whatever, but I do think that there's been, if Twitter gets enough like attention, like if it continues to grow like video and all that kind of stuff, it'll force YouTube to be less stringent to try to maintain, you know, market share and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, and what's funny, like this, Mr. Beast is the accurate personification of the spirit of YouTube. Well, PBK said, you know, TLC is using the algo for the actual telos of YouTube, which is person making. It's community, it's conversation, which is what we've been doing for the last 6-7 years. We have not been, because I mean, truly, like I would say this, I don't give a poop. I don't give a poop.
I don't get a rat's poop.
I don't give a rat's butt about money, YouTube. Okay, I don't. I make my money elsewhere. I panhandle. Rigel, Mr. Thurston, Rigel, J with an E. I. It's surrounded by an I and an E. I should have known that. My bad. It's terrible. We've emailed. What do you think, my friend?
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too, buddy. Do you have thoughts on swearing or YouTube or free speech or Christianity or Jan God's trolling or T. Grog's beatdown of theology?
Man, I don't know. Something that stuck out to me a minute or so ago was this idea of, you were like, I'm definitely American, and that makes it tricky to understand myself as a Christian. And I just wonder if you have more thoughts on that. I mean,
well, let's since this stream is not monetizable and is already bad enough, and we're swearing, and YouTube loves me.
Hell yeah.
Let's talk about Alexander Dugin and his fourth political theory, and he talks about he talks about essentially my cliff notes of that book is that the main you could bring in like Richard Rowland's what is his history series? What is that called?
Universal
History series, yeah, with Peugeot, is they talk about how it's kind of a spiral dynamic evolution of consciousness where we moved from tribal stuff, and then there was the evolution of the nation state, and now we're almost in a phase of and America was kind of the beginnings of this, almost a move into ideological things where we're no longer ethnic or tribal or familial, but your identity is rooted in abstract ideas, right? Like which political camp are you in? Or this Bill Clinton quote that I like, that is the last remaining acceptable form of bigotry is against those with whom you disagree. that's part of what's going on here. And Dugan says that within this evolution of political worlds, Seabax's text to me keeps dinging. There was the advent of, like, even democracy didn't exist at one point. And then when democracy happened, we got socialism and we got fascism, communism and fascism. And so the main three geopolitical worldviews right now and spirits are liberalism, fascism, and communism. And we can't really see outside of those categories. Like, you can't even imagine anything else because it hasn't emerged yet. And Dugan's whole fourth political theory is like, he thinks that it's time for, you could bring in maybe a fourth turning, or the age of Aquarius, or like what's going on right now, that there's some new thing emerging, which is a fourth political theory that's beyond liberalism. And Dugan would say that each one of these political theories has strengths and weaknesses, almost like a Taoistic thing.
Is a monarchy not a political system?
Well, so the monarchy would probably be, I would probably insert it after tribalism and before the nation state, I suppose, in that spiral. Because that's the fallout of World War I was the fall of the monarchy, you know.
I mean, how would you describe this internet space that we're sharing within the context of this spiral? It's like I've connected with you on email, and I wanted to like jump in on one of these calls. It's always during my work time, but it's like a new way of life to be able to do this. Meet in person, not in person.
Well, that's been an ongoing perennial conversation in the TLC. It's like, what the hell is this? And is this a new thing? Is this an emergent new thing? And then that's where I would challenge YouTube, is like these kind of online communities. And I think Rogan was a little bit of a seed in this evolution. Like, if you want to really trample down capitalism by capitalism, YouTube, I don't think it's going to come through censorship.
Trample down capitalism by capitalism. That is so juicy.
I love the juice. I love the juice. I'm looking at comments. Christian Baxter, bring in some wisdom. Channel Jordan Hall already.
It's funny that I haven't read Dugan, but Dugan seems to be, my friend Parlato knows a lot about Dugan, but he seems to be a spicy character. Like, when to invoke Dugan is a little bit of the fuck you YouTube spirit, I think, because there's some of the from the lore, I think I understand that there's been issues with him getting people canceled and stuff like that.
Well, Dugan forever. I mean, for a long time, I don't think you could order his book in America.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you said, you were like, is this too spicy for Christian? Yours truly, my whole theme is like the place you go to think out loud. Like that's like a hearkening to the IDW and free speech and all that kind of like thing, like that's the continual issue, to be able to think out loud, to be able to say what you really think. I mean, that's a bigger deal than I think we sometimes we realize, or at least in our culture, we either take it for granted or we don't think it's that important. But I mean, I think you either live in a type of delusion or you just are ignorant to the fact that, or some people may not even have that need necessarily, but I do think for some people, and I think people that find themselves in these kind of spaces, it's an important part of their being. And so it's important. I don't know. There you go. That's some ramblings of something.
I think one of the things that our space does the best is that it like it points you away from any one of the ideologies that you could like attach yourself to. And it's funny because like I was raised in like super like just like free market, like not super, but like I definitely, my dad and I watched documentaries about why the free market's great. And, you know, and I was aware of like microeconomics from a very young age. And, you know, don't quiz me.
Me too, buddy. Me too.
Yeah, I haven't read all of Adam Smith. Don't take this as a challenge to be like, what have you read? You know, well, Rise and Fall of Nation. You know, but you know, I'm just like, yeah, there's like some things that I still agree with there, and I'm not saying like, and then I broke out of it, and now me and my dad fisticuffs every Thanksgiving. You know, we each put a turkey on each hand and go at like I still agree probably with most of it, but it's just like you can tell that our conversations have changed around this topic because I'm like, yeah, like I just think it as a way of distributing goods. And it's like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But the idea of being like, no, I must have allegiance to this idea. This idea is like at the core of my identity. And this is just an example of just like, yeah, it's like, it's fine. I mean, we could have a conversation about it. You could disagree about it. Like, you know, I mean, I'd probably, you know, but just that looseness with which you're gifted. And like, you know, the archetype of like any wise character, you know, Uncle Iroh in Avatar: The Last Airbender, any of these people, they're never like the like radical political people, you know, any wise character. And I think there's a reason of just like they, not that they don't believe that there's any truth in any ideas, but that they understand the futility of like the way I will express this truth is by being like a supporter, is by being like an activist. The only way to, you know, the only way to express a truth about the world is to like fight other people for it. And that's the, you know, it's like to actually just be like, I think this is true, but like I'm very limited in my ability to affect the world. And so that it gives me this stance of being able to just like accept the things as they come. So yeah,
that makes me think about how the movie Minority Report, it's almost like censorship is kind of like thought, you know, obviously it's like the precog, like police, like we're going to arrest you before you commit the crime. It's like, we're going to arrest you before this becomes disinformation, or we're going to stop you before it, because if you're like what Alan just said, if you're just talking about something like, oh, you know, whether it was any of those things that were mentioned by Sam and McMo or whoever, like you're just talking about something. It's like water cooler talk on the internet. It's like, hey, did you see what was on X last night? You know, like, yeah, that's kind of wild, but you're not even allowed, like you're going to get a strike just for saying you saw something, as opposed to you're propagating something with, you know, propagandistic intent. And so like, we're going to cut you off before you even before it has a chance, you know, that's like, cause we know what's best for you and for society, rather than for you to just talk with your friends about something that's kind of, you know, spicy, dicey, whatever, interesting. Because
the thing I would say about that, because I agree with you, I just think that not every space is designed for everything. You know, it's like you can wear a bathing suit, but you're not supposed to wear a bathing suit in your Christmas card. You know, and just like if YouTube wants
noted.
Yeah, noted for next year. Okay, Luke, stop sending me those. Okay, stop text messaging me your Christmas card at 3 a.m. Okay, and you don't even format it. It's just you in a bikini.
Just me in a Speedo. Merry Christmas.
God, Jesus loves you. No, but I totally understand what you're saying, Christian. I just think that like if YouTube wants to be more formalized and wants to just be like, no, we don't have those conversations, that's fine. And it's okay for us to just be like, okay, then we're not going to use YouTube, you know, and some other platform will be the space. Because
you hear that, YouTube?
But like before we get into that mode of like, well, we'll retaliate, you know, if my favorite bakery stops selling the cinnamon apple loaf, I'm gonna fucking go to the bakery down. Like it's just like before whatever that is, that moment of retaliation of just like, you know, you used to do this, but now you don't, and I need to like. There's a place of just being like, okay, this is no longer that place, and before I retaliate, I'm just gonna accept that like I didn't have control to decide what YouTube's content moderation policies are prior to this, and I don't have control after this. I can respond, but like even before I decide to respond, just be like, yeah, it was never under my control. In the same way of like, when you hear a friend being like, I'm leaving town, you don't just be like, well, I'm going to have a new friend, buddy. Okay, you're going to leave town. You're going to leave me behind. You're going to move out of the state. Like, you don't just instantly jump to like, you can go through the period of being like, that's sad that this friendship is probably going to change when you leave. But, you know, I don't instantly jump to like, how do I replace and optimize and rebuild that friendship? And who can I turn into my old friend? You know, it's just like, it's okay to just be like, that was never under my control. I never could control this person, where they lived or whatever. But at the same time, these same patterns will exist.
Okay. I'm going to say one more thing, and then I'm going to leave you guys to it, because I've reached my personal internal limit of how long I'm allowed to sit in front of a screen before I feel uncomfortable and I need to get my Protestant work ethic on. But first off, shout out to Diane's Place in Minneapolis. I believe in a meritocracy when it comes to bakeries. Okay. And I don't care what you support. I just care that those pastries make me happy as I shove them in my face. And Diane's Place is delicious. Some of the best pastries I've ever had.
Yeah, I've seen Luke eat, and it's queasy inducing. Just so you guys know.
Yeah, it makes me sick sometimes, especially towards the end when I'm crying as I shove food in. And yeah, no, okay. Here, I want to start. I want to end. I want to start and then I want to end. This is my alpha and omega of this stream. I love you, YouTube. I forgive you. It's okay. It's okay. Take this down. Take all of my work down. Take all that I am. I forgive you.
Goodness.
I'm just trying to say what I feel. I'm just speaking my truth. And if you don't like that, I submit to you. One of the things that I've learned from the conservative types in the TLC is that I need to submit to my authority. I need to submit to my authorities.
You didn't learn that from Orthodoxy?
Orthodoxy, well, I mean, Orthodoxy is one of those things that is, again, they're conserving hospitality. So like you're gonna get the hyper American Eastern Rite evangelical Orthodox, in my opinion, who want to do the top-down authoritarian submission. But that's never been my experience of Orthodoxy. So Alan had to jump. He got nervous after he said the F-bomb, and we really got him.
Yeah, YouTube's gonna get him.
Who is this? Are you local? Yeah, you can absolutely buy me something sometime. Can give me a Grim coffee. I'm here for the grift.
So, yeah, Luke, if you're heading out, Rigel, I don't know you. I don't know if
yeah, why don't you do a randos at the end of this?
Rigel, did I?
All right, see you, Luke. Yeah, I haven't. This is my first time in this space.
Popping on?
Yeah, popping on. I was nervous to, like what do we do?
Hold on. I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna stream this to my channel.
All right.
Streaming Luke's channel to my channel. So that it can go forth and multiply. Yeah, dude. I don't know. How do you find this space? Talk some.
I think I originally found Paul Vanderklay on maybe he was a guest on some podcast or something, and then I found his channel, and then I found Luke, and I really resonate with the freedom of conversation, and like there's this jazz term, forgive me, I'm a musician. There's a jazz term called antagonistic cooperation, which is this feeling of being in an improvisational space with other musicians where, there's the song structure, the form, the changes basically. And then there's this invitation to antagonize that a bit and step outside the boundaries and maybe one up each other, maybe quote each other. You know, there's a lot of like freedom and flexibility. And I've been Orthodox Christian for the last 18 years, and it's rare to find, at least in this current ecosystem of Orthodoxy, it's rare to find free thinkers out there on the internet. So it was refreshing to run into Luke and
there's a lot of conversations around all those things. As you've probably already discovered, I've talked to like a dozen people on my channel, my podcast, like of that are Orthodox. I went to the Orthodox church for the first time, visited a few weeks ago. But so I liked what you're talking about conversation, though, the back and forth, the interplay related to jazz, and that is one of the really in that level of musicianship and performance, when you're able to be proficient enough to talk back, to try to one up, to troll a little bit, but that is something that seems to be going on. It's how long have you been paying attention to this space with Paul and then with Luke? How long has that been?
I think it's just been a year or
Okay.
so. Yeah, it's probably been about a year, maybe a year and a half. I don't know.
Have you commented any?
A little bit on maybe some of Luke's stuff. I'm not prolific with my commenting.
Sure.
But I think I actually have run across your podcast as well. I need to make sure I'm subscribed.
Sure, go for it. Yeah, man. Get that sub.
we're all here to help each other.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, man. So you're jazz musician. Tell us. So you've been Orthodox for 18 years. You're a jazz musician, or it sounds like, I don't know. You're a musician.
I'm a musician.
What part of the country from?
I know some jazz chords. I fake jazz, but when I get around real jazz musicians, I'm like, guys, I only play in C and F. So
yeah, that's about. I can just sit down and play power chords and C on the piano. That's about all. Yeah. I can do C sharp too, because it's all black or all white keys.
All black or all white. That's right. I live in Austin, Texas.
Okay. There's I think Emily in the chat. She's from Austin.
Oh, cool.
Food truck Emily. She's got a food truck somewhere in Austin.
Okay, I need to know about that.
Let's see, Emily Raj. If she's still hanging around, she could tell you her food truck. Yeah, so Austin, and yeah, what else? Tell us more about who you are. In the Paul Vanderklay's done 500 rando conversations, and the question he always opens up with: tell us about the house you grew up in.
Oh, great. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Well, I'll start with just how I got my name real quick, just kind of get that out of the way. So my parents were hippies, San Francisco Bay Area. There's two kind of like main categories of hippie. There's like your heroin hippies and your like live off the land, principled kind of hippies. We were the live off the land kind. And when their daughter Meadow was 2, they decided to build a boat from scratch and sail it across the ocean to Hawaii. And they didn't have GPSs back then. They had the stars. So they navigated by Rigel star, which is the left foot in the Orion constellation, and motion of the ocean. By the time they got there, I was
cooking.
I was cooking. Yeah, I was cooking. So
wow.
Grew up West Coast. I'm from a little tiny town in Washington State called Port Townsend. And in that town is where my dad built a 6-sided hexagon house. And that is the house I grew up in. Had a view, the Cascade Mountains, and grew up boating, and didn't have any sort of religious formation at all. I mean, I actually didn't even really know people went to church on Sunday until I moved to Texas. And then it's like, if you're not in church, you ain't American.
Yeah. That's kind of part of that question you asked Luke earlier about being American and being Christian.
Yeah.
That sounds like there's a little thread there. That's that's quite a story. Very West Coast. That's a very West Coast hippie story.
It is.
I've heard one recently, you were conceived in the middle of the ocean on the way to Hawaii, named after the star that your parents were following, and then settled in the Northwest in a 6-sided house. There's all sorts of interesting pieces there, named after a star.
I've told that story so many times. The conception part is just, I'm like numb to it, but it is always a little
it's fun
for people to hear.
You got a good line for it. Let's see, Emily. I can't highlight these comments, but I'm looking at them here. Emily said, I think she is saying that her food truck's called At the Domain, or it's at the Domain. I don't know if that means anything to Austin.
It's probably At the Domain, which is a place.
Yeah.
But maybe it is called At the Domain. At the Domain.
And she asked, what Ortho church do you attend?
I go to St. John the Forerunner, which is in Cedar Park.
I think he lives on, there's a, wow, why am I blanking right now? There's a guy who hangs out in the corner that's Orthodox, Paul Rainier. Do you know Paul Rainier?
Mm-mm.
He's an Orthodox guy, lives in Austin, so I don't know how. I think he is. I think he's in Austin.
Well, love to meet him.
Yeah. So you've got that. You've been Orthodox. You said you also brought out this part about Orthodoxy being in those Orthodox spaces, but then there's like some free thinking, or what's this place you've run into in your spiritual life that feels stifled or something like that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and this is maybe where this is maybe my growth edge, where I'm kind of learning to love, as Richard Rohr says, the parts of myself that I haven't gotten to know yet, or that I'm like actively still fighting inside. But as you may or may not know, there's been kind of this flood of people into Orthodoxy over the last, I would say mid-pandemic is when we started seeing it in our parish. And a lot of them are coming from kind of the Jordan Peterson or Father Josiah Trenum scene, which is very, there's a certain feel of masculinity, and people are very like drawn to the masculinity of Orthodoxy, which I'm always like, really? Like, I kind of thought that Orthodoxy was actually very feminine, but
I can't remember. There's a lady on here who participates, and she's on. If you've seen Luke, you've heard of Grail Country probably a little bit. And her name's Sherry, and she says, I can't remember what they say. It's something about, I may get this backwards, but like the church space is feminine, but the like has like a type of a masculine leadership. It's got kind of the yin and the yang of it, less where you some of the the Protestant sectors, like in the Mark Driscoll type world. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but it's like this hyper masculinity in this flat, space. So that's really the only thing that seems to like come through. But then if you have like the Theotokos, like that's something that represents like the divine feminine to help like shape that space. That's kind of what I seem to have like recognized in my engagement with Orthodoxy on why, the guys that have long beards and smoke cigars and pipes and like bourbon or whatever, it's like, or like, okay, there's like a thing here,
yeah, well, it's like, as I'm putting myself, I mean, here's the thing. Part of it is I was one of these guys like 18 years ago. So part of me is like still kind of reacting to this part of myself that I'm trying to like distance myself from.
So what did get you, if you weren't raised in church, what like brought you to the Christian faith?
Yeah, well, I mean, it started in, it was probably 2001 or 2002. I was in real estate, and I'm like telling you my salvation story.
My brother, testify thy testimony
from the mountaintops of the YouTube algorithm.
No, this is where it bottoms out. This is from the valley, man.
This is
from
the valley.
the
Hey,
valley.
cheers to the valley, brother.
Cheers. This old water bottle.
Good. So I was going to Dallas to a motivational seminar, and a couple of guys I went up there with, like, hyper evangelical Christians. Something cracked open up there where they were talking about, like, giving without an expectation to receive, and I was like, wow, that I have, like, not been around that. That's a very fresh concept. And they, next thing they're like, oh, this is a doorway to the Lord. And so they like invited me. I don't know how we got onto it, but they saw the opportunity to invite me to invite Jesus into my heart. And like in that car ride, like we were driving back from Dallas, and I had a freaking Holy Spirit. I mean, maybe it was a psychological thing, but like it was a physical presence that I felt in the car with us. And I like looked around and like, you guys feel that? And they're like, yeah. And we're kind of like having this moment together. And from that moment on, I was like, okay, I am now a Christian. What does that mean? And I started like church shopping. I ended up at a Baptist church that just had like a really great singles department. I needed like good influences on me. I wasn't a bad kid at all. I was like pretty straight-laced growing up, as far as the people in my hometown go. But it was a really friendly, like Bible-based, like there was a Bible with our group at all times. We were memorizing scripture. But I was a little bit of a fish out of water because, I've got some hippie roots. I mean, my full name is Rigel Windsong Little Deer Thurston. Okay. Like I can freaking flash my cards.
Little Deer. You got, man, I love that.
And this was right around, were you in this space when like the whole emergent movement was happening, like the Donald Miller?
Yep. Thing? I was reading him in high school, and then I was an evangelical worship leader for like 15 years. So
I was too. Within a month of joining this Baptist church, they're like, "Oh, you're a musician? We'll just get you plugged in," and like their fangs are,
Don't worry, you're in good company. I see your piano back there.
Good, but the thing is, it's all part of my part of my journey, and I loved like learning that music and singing harmony. I hadn't really sung harmony with people. I was always like kind of a solo singer. So there's a lot of beautiful things that came out of that time in my life, but some really tragic things happened. My sister died. I started questioning lots of things and like wondering, like, I have friends that are gay and I don't want to be like a jerk to them because of my faith. And so, I started like exploring other churches, ideas. Rob Bell was like very influential on me. Sure. I think actually Rob Bell was the first kind of taste of Orthodox theology, actually. He had this series called like The Flames of Heaven Are Awfully Hot or something like that. And anyways, so there were lots of like little seeds that were planted. And I found my way into the Orthodox Church. That's like a whole nother 20-minute story, but
I've got time today. That's why I'm on here.
Cool. Well, so I'm in this like transitional questioning, exploring phase. And I went to a silent monastery, a Catholic monastery in Texas called Leb Shemaya. And my buddy and I were sitting at this table, like I don't know, it was like a 12-person, 15-person giant wooden table, and you're all sitting in silence, like forks clinking. And I'm used to getting people to like me by talking to them. And I'm just totally out of my element. Very jarring to my like way of being around people. And this nun was sitting across from us, and she like whisper screams across the table, and she's like, "Hey, are you all priests?" And we're like, "No, we're Protestants." I didn't even know if like priests were Christian, because that sounded Catholic, and as a Baptist, Catholics aren't Christian.
Oh, you're preaching to the choir.
Preaching to the choir. And she was like, "I see you're reading." I was reading a Thomas Merton book called like Contemplative Prayer or something like that. She's like, "If you like Thomas Merton, let me show you, some other books." And she took us up to the library, and she gave my friend the Philokalia, which is like not a beginner book. And she gave me The Way of the Pilgrim, which was this kind of like, it was like a really popular book in Russia, I think, back in the 1800s or something. It's about this like wandering monk, wandering like homeless dude, really, who's trying to figure out what it means to pray without ceasing. And, I was like, up until that point, prayer was mostly just asking God for shit that I want, whether physical things or just things to go my way. And I didn't really know that there was a Christian tradition of actually just like silent prayer and connecting directly with God. And
like through the Jesus prayer.
Yeah, the Jesus prayer, which has many forms. There's it can also just be silent prayer. But yeah, it's the Jesus prayer like contains all of those kind of prayer of the heart practices. And that got me down this, rabbit hole of like, what is orthodoxy? And I had a friend going to seminary out in California, and he was like, "Hey, you got to come meet my Greek Old Testament professor. He's an Orthodox priest, and he's like Santa Claus in real life. You got to come out and meet him and hang out with me." So met this guy. He was like Santa Claus in real life. Super sweet human being. And we went on a field trip and went to an Orthodox service. And I was surprised by how Christ-centered it was. And as a Baptist, that's like the most important thing. And he gave me a book just introducing like the faith. And I was on the plane ride back home from Redding, California. And walking down the aisle, you're getting the full story here. Walking down the aisle.
It's not just me. Keep going.
The whole world.
We're live streaming this rando. Keep going.
This is great. So I have this book. I had gotten to the point where like I knew that in 1054, the Orthodox and Catholic faith had like split into two churches. And I see this guy walking down the aisle. He's wearing a black cassock and a white collar. I'm like, Catholic priest. I hide my book, and he comes and sits right next to me. And I'm like, "Are you a Catholic priest?" And he's like, "I'm a Greek Orthodox priest." Like, all right, you all that desperate? So I just pelted him with questions about like Mary and the Pope. Those were the two things that I was just like, this is like a deal breaker. And the way he talked about it just totally disarmed me. And I was like, oh, okay. So a lot of the language in Orthodoxy is the same as Roman Catholic, but it kind of means something a little bit different. There's this apophatic kind of approach and mystical side and symbolism that is like more than symbolism, yet there's just like a gentleness in the structure. And by the end of that plane ride, I was like, well, I either need to become Orthodox or start my own church. And I still am always dabbling with that idea a little bit, but that's when I started like searching around Austin and found an Orthodox church.
That's interesting. You either need to start your why was that the conclusion that you need to start your own church or you need to become Orthodox?
Good question. I'm kind of remembering this through new lenses. So I would say that there was part of me that there's this like indestructible polarity of like express self and sacrifice self that I tend towards one or the other, and rarely do I bring them together in a beautiful dance. But I think part of that like express self part of me was just like, I don't want to be told what to do. I was already, me and my like guy friend buddies were, guy Christian friends. We had like a Bible study and we had it figured out. And it's very tempting to just like start our own thing. But then Orthodoxy is like, yeah, that's the problem with Protestantism, is like, if you disagree, just like move further away. And I love C.S. Lewis's The Great Divorce, where people are just like moving further and further away. And I'm like in real estate in the time. And I'm like, okay, I want to be in community with my neighbor. And like, how do I do that? Which is so interesting about, coming full circle to this online space. At the time, I was like very anti-internet, anti-everything modern, And Orthodoxy is great at critiquing modernity. It's like, it's freaking superpower. But I found a lot of my people online, in online communities. I've built like a songwriting community, and I found people there. This space seems like fertile for people who I can challenge and support with. So anyways, that's how I came into the whole OC.
And now that I want to go back to that part where you were talking about the kind of the shadow of something that you see in yourself in these new converts. Like what is it that you're seeing that is annoying or something? I don't know if you said that directly, but it's like, I mean, if you're seeing that, it's like,
I think annoying is because
I've had multiple conversations with a young man. He's about 27. He's been Orthodox for about 7-8 years. And like the way we met was talking about Orthodoxy on a Paul Vanderklay live stream on a Friday back in the spring. His name's Joseph Lambrecht, and he just finished becoming a deacon. But he kind of has this same sentiment that, in a way, he's like, I don't know if this is good in a way or something like that. So whatever your critique is, I'm interested to hear.
Yeah, well, I might have to like dig in and see what happens, because I haven't like really looked at my own critique, which is probably it's good for me that I'm doing this. I mean, I think what probably is happening is the people who are influencing new converts, like a lot of them, I actually get to know them and I just like them and they like me and we get along, even if we're like totally on the different side of the political spectrum, or we misunderstand each other's underlying values. I bristle at some of these online personalities and then kind of their online little minions that follow them around. And so I think I conflate a lot of that with the person in front of me. And I mean, the beautiful thing about in-person relationships is like some of that can dissipate if I make an effort to actually get to know them. A lot of times, you know,
on both sides of that, actually,
Yeah.
because it's like they may, you know, what's the guy's name? Jay Dyer? Is that his name?
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
I know. Yeah.
so they may, you know, they may be coming from that, but like but if they're by themselves, like no matter who you are, no matter how based you are, you come into that place by yourself and you're kind of like, is anybody going to like me? Am I going to be okay here? You know, it's like you're
Yeah.
human at the end of the day. And then this guy comes up and it's like been in the Orthodox faith for 20 years. And he's kind of like, hey man, tell me about your story. You know, like, oh, we disagree, but you were the person that came up, you know, it's like, that's reality. And there are things, and I think that's even to the point of this whole, how this whole stream started. It's like, there are these things that we're exposed to online, whether that's like Jay Dyer type things or all these things, and they get in our minds and they animate us and they hype us in certain directions. And that's why it's frustrating with YouTube. The way this whole conversation was even started earlier was like, we're going to strike you for even just trying to like wrestle with that a little bit publicly, you know, and, or whatever. That's not what's happening there. But I think even to some degree, it's like when we want to wrestle with these things in conversation, and then you get, you know, and you say something that, oops, it didn't, you know, that hit the filter, and it was like, and you're punished for that when you're really trying to make sense of the world. And so,
yeah,
that's frustrating. And that would be part of my critique to kind of what Alan was talking about earlier, but
yeah,
you know, go ahead.
Well, you bring up Jay Dyer, and that's one of the people that like really like that's a hard, quick trigger for me. But I'm gonna try to steel man a little bit here. Jay Dyer, you know, he's connecting to something in these men that are dealing with something, and they're feeling pulled towards him for a reason, because something in their life is not working. Their like survival system is like outdated, and it's activating something in them. And what I find beautiful about orthodoxy is it's like highest, and this is really weird to a Western mind. It's kind of its highest form of truth is participatory and not like rational.
Yeah.
And even you'll notice, like, I don't know how it is in every other Orthodox church, but like our priest has like 5-minute homilies, and then the service is like 2 hours. So, you know, 5-10 minute homilies, that gives you just a little sense of like what this is about. It's not, I mean, I sometimes take the homilies, sometimes leave them, you know, but it's this like this container that can contain all these different, like, I call them stages of development. And I'm a developmentalist, if you will, in my thinking. But, you know, I was in that place, I was in the, you know, late 2000s version of today's kind of masculine orthodoxy.
Like angst, existential angst or whatever.
Yeah. And like, honestly, I needed to own that angst and like differentiate. It's this differentiation energy that within the container of a community, you know, if people actually stay and pray together and hate each other when they figure out that they're like different, and then get to know each other and realize that like, we don't, you know, like communities go through stages of development too. And that like facade has to break a little bit for like real community to happen. And I read that in a book, you know, 18 years ago, and it just kind of hurts when it's actually happening. Stings a little.
When it's coming from like a different angle than you're like, well, I can't relate to you on the specifics of this, but I can relate to you on the general sense of this, you know, but still that's kind of like, oh, you know, like I'd rather like relate to you on the specifics of where you're coming from. Maybe. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but I'm kind of in a, is the reason I kind of poked in on the start of church. I'm kind of helping on a church plan. I'm taking a bunch of Baptists and basically we're going to become sacramental Presbyterians. And
interesting.
And so like the idea of what you're talking about, because it's a community, it's a high community of trust. And instead of trying to go and splinter into and yet one other non-denominational Baptist church, like it's like, no, we want to attach ourselves to something. And it's not the hip and the cool attaching yourself to the OG, OC, but like crossing that threshold with a group of people, and who, because this is the other part of the conversation, is like I don't live in a metroplex. Like right now, I work part-time in Nashville, and and I'm staying with my sister, and there's like an Orthodox church like right down the street where she lives in kind of like South Nashville, and there's a lot of different cultures in that area. Yeah. So there's a lot of Orthodox churches, and but where I live in a 10,000 person town in the middle of nowhere, Arkansas, there's like nothing. So even if that was like, even if that's what I wanted to go to, this like doesn't even make sense. And like the oldest institution in our town is the oldest city in Arkansas technically now, and the oldest institution is the Presbyterian Church, which they started a college there, and that's been the college in our little town for over 100 years. They almost and it's based off of that heritage, and so it's like that's actually the oldest place. That's the most like centered town. The whole that idea that I could even get to where I'm at. Yeah. So it's like there's interesting things related to that conversation about what it is that we're searching for in the meaning crisis type worlds and situations, and reaching back into history and into something.
I think that's beautiful. I mean, I don't know that I would be Orthodox if there was something like that. I mean, I don't know. Our circumstances are a little bit different, but
sure.
I remember, these old guys who had been in the faith for a long time, who were like more liberal than I was comfortable with, but I was like, okay, they'd say things like, the East and the West are like two wings, that flap together or something like that. And like, we need each other. And I was like, that's bullshit. Like, we need to just like become the true church,
There's that shadow side.
I know. But like, I am now turning into that old dude. And I feel like the Catholic Church, the Protestant gifts, like they have gifts that I think the entire body of Christ needs, and that Orthodoxy is kind of like struggling without. I mean, I could go down kind of like a whole rabbit trail of like the things that are wrong with Orthodoxy, but
give us the top three. Give us the top three.
Well, there's
a lot of in this corner, there's kind of like, that's the battle is like, everything's like, it's the hot new girl.
Yeah.
Like show us a few of the wrinkles you can't see behind the filter, All
right. So I would say the one that bubbles up to the top is we can't call a meeting. We're really into the ecumenical councils. We can't freaking call a meeting. We have no one to call the meeting. Okay. And then we got close, and then they were arguing over like like seating arrangements around the table, and it blew up. So that's a hard one, because like if we're going to actually be kind of a relevant voice in this world, like we need to be able to at least talk about stuff together. But we can't like even call a meeting. So that is something that Rome knows how to do. They can call meetings, man. Efficient compared to us. But Protestantism, it's interesting. I'm as kind of a developmentalist. I don't know. Luke mentioned spiral dynamics earlier on. I don't know if you've run across any of that stuff, but that's kind of like a little bit of the world I live and breathe. And I think that like there are, you know, Protestantism emerged in response to the pathologies of Rome, of this like hyper centralized system, and
corruption.
Yeah, and corrupt. Yeah,
Yeah.
Totally. And part of that was like individualizing the faith. Like we all have access to the Bible, and the, you know, printing press emerged at that time, and so that made it possible. And it's just like this beautiful ability, this beautiful ability. That's not the right word. Just response, I think, to a tough situation. And, you know, now we all have access to the holy books
and to each other, to the nature of this conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I first got on here and started playing with a YouTube channel. One of the things is like the digital, you know, as beautiful as the walls of orthodoxy are, the digital is eating them right now. Like you can't, in a certain kind of way, we're having a conversation that is very Protestant in that way. Like, because you can't, the Catholic Church or the what is the, a lot of times Luke gets on, he talks about what is Orthodox conserving. The conservation, the ability to conserve things physically is changing. With a library or a wall, or even with priests in a certain way. And I don't, which I like explicit hierarchy. I think it's that there's good there that Protestantism's gotten away from by making it all implicit. Like then you have to play like language games and it becomes manipulative to try to do some of that stuff. So I do think that the back and forth, like what we're gonna see over the next probably, you know, next 20 years is how this shakes out related to those poles of you know, like we have everything, you know, and but well, it and it's really it's weird because some of the things I kind of see, and if you were in that kind of emerging church thing 20 years ago, like there were a lot of really innovative ideas that were like, just like, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this, you know. And I remember getting exhausted by that because like, let's do communion 10 different ways this year.
Yeah.
It's like, like that's a lot of planning. Who has to plan it? The worship leader, you know, it's like, or whatever. But the interesting thing is that then you kind of get tired of that. And then I want something that's old, stable, and solid. And you go to it, and the people that have been in that old, stable, and solid thing, they're kind of like looking for innovation in a certain way. And it's like, well, I've been in the innovation, you know, world for the last 20 years and I'm tired of it. Like, so it's this weird push and pull. You know, my friend, Joseph, I mentioned earlier, he was talking about things going on in his diocese, you know, and they're looking at other denominations and how they're doing things good, which is probably anathema to say other denominations, but we'll just leave it at that. But they were looking at other Christian church groups saying, they're really good at that. I want us to become better at this as Orthodox.
Yeah.
And I don't know if and there's Luke Thompson chiming in, faithful innovation. Yeah. What does that mean? And I think that is, instead of innovation for innovation's sake, or innovation like with the evangelical telos of growth, of scale, actually, it's not even growth, it's scale. And it's like, that's not healthy for people. You know, maybe products, maybe we can scale these or something, but it's like people don't scale. People have, and I think that, I don't know if that's what you mean by developmental, like a developmentalist, like cultivating is more like that. That's like a growth word, you know, and culture word or whatever. But
well, I mean it in kind of, and I have to go in a minute because I got everybody coming, but a developmental in the sense of, and I mean, I feel like this is actually what tradition is integrating and like evolving and integrating the stuff that's come before in a way that is synthetic. But so I want to go back to something you said. You asked, like, you know, what is Orthodox preserving? And there is this saying, orthodoxy is paradoxy. And I think a lot of times, like one of those words that doesn't mean what it means out in the Western world is tradition. Tradition is like living, and where you hear it out in the rest of the world as this like static thing that we're preserving. And so I think that what we're preserving is the living paradox.
Well, I like it. Maybe that's what
I have to head.
Yeah, man. Hey, it was really nice to meet you, and I think everybody feels that way. Emily, I'm sorry I didn't get to bring your comments into the conversation. And Rigel, dude, have a good day, whatever you're about to do. Maybe writing session or whatever you're doing. But
yeah, man, just writing the song of life, bro.
Awesome, dude. Well,
right,
have a good day, man.
Okay, bye-bye.
I can't pull you out of the show. You'll have to pull yourself out.
I got it.
Because I have no control, Luke. I'm not an admin on any of this. I can't highlight comments. I'll go back and read some. Emily, the critique, attaching yourself to something. How about just Christ? What if it's all Christ? And that there's Christ in the institution, Christ in the person, Christ in the relationship. We have access to Christ. Seems Catholic Church made us forget that. Faithful innovation. Risen, not risen. I think there's a distinction here between access to the family of Christ and access to the authority of Christ, a tension between level and hierarchy. I like that. Further up, further in. Let's see. Emily, we can serve things that are limited, that we want to create the illusion of scarcity around. False weight of glory and of sacredness. I have to chew on that. And then rude. Sorry, Emily. I'm trying to now. And I can't show your comments. I'm just a participant here on Luke's Whitestone name FU stream. Let's see. I wanted Yon God. Yes, Jesus was not Dionysus. Eat me. I'm trying to better understand Yon God's trolling humor. I think it's been, I know he's participated a lot more in the last several months. Yeah, well, Luke, I know you're like, I don't know if anyone else has, I can't even bring people into the stream. So if you want to come back on for a minute and either offer the link, or I probably need to go otherwise, and I'll just shut it down. But if anyone wants to, if anyone's like, I want to come in and keep this thing going and had thoughts, okay, Luke's going to come in, and then he can, if there was other people that wanted to come in and give thoughts or talk for a minute, I want to open that. I don't want to shut it down prematurely. But yeah, this was fun. I got to play Grail Country channel to Luke's live stream today. I've got questions about this veil comment. I don't know. Lukey, yay for randos.
What's up, boss?
Hey man, I just went with it. I just followed the logos.
Dude, that's all any of us can do, right? You received with meekness the implanted word. That's another way to say following the logos.
There's the link. Luke's dropped the link. See if anyone comes in and hangs out or wants. But yeah, I can't do much from here. So, but I did stream it to my channel. I'm gonna go ahead and remove it from my channel.
Here, I'm trying to pin it. Why can I not? Why can't I pin my own dang comment?
I don't know.
Open with. YouTube is not allowing me to do anything anymore. They're like, you can't be trusted.
Yeah. I guess I can't stop it going to my channel now. I don't know how this works. I've not done this a whole lot where I've streamed it to another channel.
Dude, why? Why won't you let me pin it? It's only letting me.
You have to do it on your phone.
I am doing it from my phone.
Oh. I've
There,
had
I
trouble.
got it. Pin message. So now it's pinned on my channel. There's nobody else in here right now. I'm gonna go do the elliptical. So I will.
It's all right. I'm gonna head out, man. So if
You're gonna head
everyone's
out? Okay.
yeah. So if everyone's
I
done.
really hope. So I really hope they don't remove this, because Jess would normally be here to take over or something, but he must be busy. Or Sherry or something. But I guess maybe Sherry doesn't. This is just on my channel.
Right.
So if people are just, Grail countryers, maybe I'll have to stop streaming to Grail country so I don't drag them down with me.
Well, you're dragging me down. I'm going down with you. I've attached myself to this stream. So
You did, yeah. Well, and I appreciate that. You don't. It's for the persons.
there you
If
go.
you're a bird, I'm a bird, Seabax.
I like it. All right, man. Well, everyone, thanks for hanging around. That was fun getting to know Rigel and do the whole.
Yeah, that was so cool. I just told like his brief, how he was how his parents got together with Emotion on the Ocean and that whole thing and the hexagonal house and like saying all that. And my wife will just like shake. She's like, of course, these are like the people that listen to you.
Bringing out your spirit animals, your hippie spirit animals.
All right, Seabax, I'm gonna shut her down. Thanks
All
for
right,
doing the randos. That was good.
Randos United for life.
Oh, Clara's here. Clara wants to say hi. Clara.
Okay. Clara.
Were you guys wrapping up? I didn't mean to.
I was wrapping it, but you can tell us your thoughts. Do you think you complimented me earlier. You said something nice.
Claire, I'm leaving, but it's not because of you. Just so you know.
It's good to see you, Max.
See ya.
No, I scrolled to the beginning and I was like, Luke is gleefully defiant. He's got gusto. Were you surprised they said something nice?
No, I wasn't surprised you said something nice, but that's the only comment that I saw is when you started watching it, and then you said, I don't know, you said something. You said something nice, so that was nice. I don't, how about this? Since I need to go do the elliptical, you get the last word. What do you think?
I just wanted to say hi and to support you in this YouTube fiasco where it seems like you're unjustly being attacked.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. YouTube, again, I apologize in dust and ashes. I probably will still keep doing what I'm doing, though, which is saying what I think, because I think, we can agree to disagree. We can agree to disagree without dividing relationship, To quote Bill Clinton, the last remaining acceptable form of bigotry is against those with whom we disagree. So I think we can not be bigots and disagree and still stay in communion and not ban and filter each other. I think it's possible.
Okay, I want to hear more another time.
Okay, we'll talk to you later.
See you
Bye,
later.
everyone. Ending stream.